Kia ora whanau, here's another Red Rocks mission. As you can probably tell, it's my favourite spot to go on the south coast of Wellington, and it seems to always deliver. It was a beautiful day out, so took a couple spells off school and took 3 Hiratonga College boys with me. When we first got in, we tried a new spot and there were kahawai everywhere. So the first probably hour of the diving was in these big schools of kahawai, just following them and grunting and hoping a kingy was following them, but that didn't end up happening. Plugged one for a friend who loves kahawai, so but didn't see any kingies. It was an interesting structure, sandy bottom, so it was a bit dirty, but it was still around 7 meters viz. Here a couple of muki, and I just picked the biggest one. Closed the distance, got nice and close, pulled the trigger. Nice big fillets of muki, and if you get the nice white flesh, not the grey flesh, then it's awesome eating. The grey flesh, not so much. Always pull the fish down to your flopper, just makes it easier to hold, and then you know it's not going to get off, or your flopper won't unengage while it's still alive. Kick it to the float boat and we're off with the kai anyway, so it's a good start. Here just a lonely blue cod, was just swimming around. Always get nervous shooting blue cod because they're always the old 32 centimeters. Then when this bad boy measured up, I was pretty stoked. Sam here is just unloading a few power he got. Got a couple massive power and legal sideways, which is awesome. So it made me want to have a look for some power. Didn't have my power knife, so just gave him the old stiff arm. And with the power in this area, there were plenty of them, but they were all really big, so that was my biggest power. Legal sideways, I was stoked. When you get in the hand, then you realise how big it is. Here I was just kicking around, trying to look for a few crays, and a big blue cod just came out of nowhere, so quickly dropped down to my gun, because if I commit to crays, I want to drop my gun, otherwise I end up doing cray diving and shooting both poorly. But of course it pops up when I don't have my gun on me. So I stayed in the area, and then the blue cod made it easy for me because it swam up to look at something and just sitting right out in the open. So no troubles with that one. Another PB for me, my biggest blue cod. So stoked. Here I see the structure and covered in what are called cray weed. So this is the kind of weed you want to look for when you look for crayfish. And I saw a butterfish. It was only butterfish I saw all dive. So I was trying to play cat and mouse with it. It was just hiding from me. But because this structure looked good, and on the other side it had a nice dark hole, I decided to drop my gun. And that's when I found a couple of crayfish. So here I'm just warming up my grabbing hand, checking my watch, making sure I got a nice breathe up, keeping my eyes on where I'm going and getting my glove nice and tight. This cray had there was a smaller one underneath and there was a big buck on top. So I tried to get as close as I can, just slowly get my hand as close to it, because I knew it had a lot of room to kind of disappear. And then I just went for it, all in, punch the tail. So it actually beat me, it gassed me, but this is a black screen because it's me actually throwing my whole arm in, and I can feel it at the back of the cave. So I grab it and have to secure it with my left hand, and that's why it starts owning my glove and owning me, because it was not happy. And then even here, it's owning my right hand. So I try to think, oh yeah, sweet, how can I hold this? Try and hold all the tail down. but then that's no good, so just hold it nice and firm and just deal with it. Check that it's not soft before it goes in the float boat, comes home. I decided to check that same hole or cave because of the other cray I saw, but because of that fight all the sand is all kicked up. So following the rule of when there's one there's normally more, I have another look around and I actually find the other cray just sitting out the front of the hole on my way around, working around that structure. So my gun's still there, so easy as I can just drop to my gun, and then just to the left of the hole is just sitting out in the open, made for an easy grab. They must have felt that the cave was no longer safe, so thought sitting out in the open was a better option. Sadly not. Straight away, give it a squeeze, see if it's soft. Nah, carpite. Got my cray measure attached to my float boat, so give it a quick measure, but it was more than legal, so try and stack it in the float boat. Find some room for it and just jam it in. I kick over to see Sam and Jared, and Sam's just shot his PB butterfish, went 53 centimetres, which was an awesome fish. And then the structure and terrain looks really good, so I just kick around a little bit, looking for this crayweed, and I see a little cave, so I pop down and see 3 crays in there, so jump up and see which one of the boys wants to have a go and try and get on their first cray. They're both keen as. So Jared comes over and has a look. Nice long breathe up, goes and has a look. But then they've pushed back a little bit. So then Sam wants to see if he can do anything about that. Nice long breathe up. Nice and calm, and has a look. You can see the crays in there, but they're a bit too deep, so makes a smart decision of, instead of just ripping them apart, their feelers off, he just lets them be and is just happy for the experience. Good mission. Back over the gate to where I park my ute, because I'm too precious for my ute. It's not going over the gate. It's a bit too gnarly for me. Call me soft and I say carp eye, all good. My running boards aren't damaged. Mint night out, good feed, good fun kicking with these students. Living the dream. Kia ora tangaroa.